Coming to you live from Interpersonal Psychiatry Basement. This is Dr. Soni, your humble and lovable host. And today, then, I am joined with my one and only son, Hiten Soni. Say hello, Hiten Soni.
Howdy, folks.
Alrighty then. So today, Hiten Soni, I understand you have some questions to ask me about medical school.
Yeah, well, I thought today's topic might be what is your favorite and what was your least favorite part about going to medical school? Because you went to medical school sort of later in your career.
Yes, that is so true. In fact, in the medical school, I was so old that my nickname was Pops. Something that...
No, really? It was Pops?
No, it was really my nickname, which was pretty good because when Vince came in, he was slightly, it was a lot older and he was Gramps. So that helped me out. It took a lot of pressure off of me. But you're correct. So before I tell you about my experience with the medical school, so I want to tell you more about the medical school. What would it have been like if you or I or anybody else for that matter had gone to medical school in 1000 BC. So why don't you ask me what would it be like to go to medical school in 1000 BC?
Well, okay, so what would it be like to go to medical school in 1000 BC? Was there medical school in 1000 BC?
There were medical school and...
like leech doctors? What are we talking about here?
No, not leech doctor, medical school.
Okay.
Right, yeah. So in the European tradition, you would have gone to school, and what they would have taught you are simple things that they were way off. Okay.
Okay.
So what kind of things would be way off?
Lobotomy, was that anything?
Well, no, we didn't do lobotomy because we didn't know much about brain.
Okay.
So how is it that we didn't know much about it? What they would have taught you is this.
Okay.
One of the topics they would have talked about, they would have said, blood is produced in the liver, which it is not.
Okay.
But that's what they would have taught you.
All right.
Okay. So blood is produced in the liver, and then it is sent to the heart.
Which is not correct.
Which is not correct.
Right.
Okay. Then, from the right side of the heart, the blood sort of magically goes over to the left side of the heart.
Okay.
And in the process, it is somehow infused with the divine quality in the blood. It is called pneuma. Now, pneuma later turns out to be air. But at that time, it was a divine sort of a property that was somehow put in it's a life force that is infused in the blood as it magically goes from the right side of the heart to the left side of the heart.
I see.
The left side of the heart then pumps it, and it's a one-way thing. So liver produces the blood, right side of the heart, it moves over, picks up this property called pneuma, and then it's a life force, and then it distributes everywhere else.
Sure.
Now, let us say 1,000 years later, you went to a medical school.
Right.
Okay. And then the students would have been taught this. Blood is produced in the liver. It is then sent to the right side of the heart.
Right.
And then the pneuma comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And so the curiosity, what do you want to ask me now?
How in 1,000 years does that not change?
Exactly. So in 1,000 years during that you went to the med school, and the curriculum has not changed, because guess what is one thing you're not allowed to do?
Autopsy?
Exactly. Cut into the human body.
Mm-hmm.
So had they ever cut into a human body, then they would have seen something called the lungs. And the connection of the heart to the lung.
Okay.
Now, let us say you fast forward and go to medical school in the year 1000.
All right.
So this is 2,000 years later now.
Right.
So we talked about 1000 BC, 0, and then 1,000 years later.
Okay.
I want you to guess.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to guess no change.
No change.
No change.
The blood is produced in the liver.
Okay, and then it moves to the heart, and then the pneuma, and all right.
So then, hence we call those periods dark ages.
Wow, 2,000 years.
2,000 years, not much has changed. in that
Wow.
2000 years.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's fast forward to say year, I don't know, 1200.
Okay. Around 200 years.
200 years.
Nothing. No
You guessed-
change?
No change, you guessed it.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you and I call science, the word did not exist until Francis Bacon, not the painter. Apparently there is a painter, I did not know about that.
Okay.
So there is a Francis Bacon, and he comes up with this concept. So he is 14 years old, and he goes to Trinity College in Cambridge University in England.
Okay.
And he is sitting there, and the handbook that is given to them during the orientation, this handbook specifically forbids the student not to read any book that are not written by Aristotle or his apologists. So somebody is criticizing Aristotle, those books we are not going to read. Because we are not, because that's what the university said.
Okay.
So the curriculum, it's a 3-year curriculum. In a curriculum, there isn't a lot of things to teach you because there isn't much science. Because remember, the word science is not in the vocabulary.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So what they're teaching you now in this Cambridge University, it says there are numerous things that we can teach you. One is a theology.
Okay.
Okay. Now the theology is the truth, the way God presented to you.
Indeed.
Okay, so that's the one source of truth, that the biblical truth. Okay?
Sure.
So whatever it is. The second thing that they would have you they would teach you that the second source of truth is the law.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So now the law again is the truth. There isn't a natural law like. The law is as somebody says it is. It's a set of customs and set of rules that somebody set down. It's like you drive on this side of the street or that side of the street or whatever. Those are the law. So the first sort of truth is still an authority, the biblical authority, the Pope and all those. The church is the source of the truth. The second source of the truth then is what the king says.
Mm-hmm.
So how much is a yard? And king says from here to there is a yard.
Right. Okay.
Well, how much is a foot? That is how long is a foot.
Uh-huh.
So what is the source of the truth at this point? Authority.
Yeah.
The authority is the source of truth. The other source of truth then is what law says. Now we don't really look up anything. So Aristotle is a very good authority. And he uses the series of arguments we now say syllogism.
Syllogism.
Mm-hmm. Syllogism. So all birds fly and mosquito flies. Mosquito is a bird.
Okay. Yes. Right. Right.
Now, it is all these things are true. All birds fly, mosquito flies. But then if you do this, you miss out on the truth. Penguin is a bird and does not fly.
Right.
Bat flies, but it's neither bird nor insect. So now we are missing all these things because based on your observations and using the syllogism. So the knowledge base does not really expand. Why?
No one's given the opportunity to expand it, really?
Very good wrong answer.
Oh, hey!
I like it. I like it.
All right.
I like it.
Why don't you give me the right one, Pop?
Well, thank you. I thought you would never ask. The problem is this. The knowledge doesn't expand because you are using a premise. And you're taking that premise as the truth of the authority.
I think I said that in so many words.
Did you know?
All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going.
All right. So, but you see though.
Sure,
All
yes,
birds
I do,
fly
yeah.
is a premise.
Right.
But it is not true.
It's a flawed premise.
It is not true. Ostrich does not fly. Penguin does not fly.
Chicken
Chicken does not fly. Although there was a movie back in the
Run.
Chicken Run. I
1999.
think you and I saw it one
Oh,
time.
we had it on VHS.
There was something about chicken flying or the night, but yeah, I forget.
Yeah, they built sort of a slingshot contraption to escape. We'll watch it.
Yeah, we'll watch it again.
Yeah,
Okay, all right. So where was I? Oh yes, the premise. The premise, then. You have to take a premise as the truth.
Okay.
And then you can extend it to other situations. Although the knowledge quality dependent on how truthful the original premise is.
Okay.
And therefore, even the set of knowledge you cannot expand on, because you can only extend what the knowledge you already have to other situations that are novel. But it is not expanding the knowledge.
Okay.
Okay? And hence, 2,200 years later, you can go to medical school and come out just as dumb as 2,000 years ago.
Yes.
22 years. Because you're not gaining anything that is not available to you. So, and there is a problem, and the organon is the word that uses. Organon is the organ, or the collection of work. And Francis Bacon then has this idea, but mind you, he's 14.
Sure.
And he wants to write this book. He hangs on to this idea when he's 14, sitting in the Trinity College. This is a BS. And he tries to tell the neighbor, now who are you going to believe? You go to the university, and the professor is up there teaching you stuff, and the guy sitting next to you, who's also 14, and says, this is garbage what he's teaching you. And you would know.
Right. Right.
If somebody is to tell you the truth, it's not going to be the 14-year-old sitting next to you. Mm-hmm. So who's believing in him?
Nobody.
No,
Yeah.
it's exactly a right answer. Good. Okay, you got it this time. He then hangs on to this idea, and it really, really bothers him. Okay. He's 70-something years old.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. We're jumping forward.
Yeah, so we're jumping forward. Now, not much has changed in all this time.
Okay.
Not much has changed. Oh, hell, they didn't change for 2,200 years.
Right.
So for 78 years. He's 78, 74, something I exactly forget. And he wants to write this book, and he's going to call it a new organon or a new organ. So in the Latin is organon novum. So when you go to college like I have, and then I don't have the patch here, but I could, and then I would have like more authority.
Yes.
So then I would say things like organon novum as opposed to new organ. The new collection of ideas, and then he needs to get a permission from the Pope, he needs to get a permission from the King, and you have to read the introduction to this Organon Novum. And so I've been looking around, I finally find it at the Salvation Army for 25 cents, Organon Novum, and I promptly acquire it, and I try to read it, and it makes no sense whatsoever. It's written in English.
No, for sure. It's just so old.
It's been translated.
Yeah.
But it's such a thick English that it doesn't translate well. Yet, when you read the first few pages of the introduction, he is kissing ass of the king like you wouldn't believe. Okay? And he writes it, he sends it to the king for the permission to be published it. And he doesn't think he will get it, but he wants it to be published after he's dead. Because, you don't want to get burned alive or things of, things of that nature. He somehow, I'm not quite sure on the detail whether it's published while he's alive or not, but the king somehow gives the permission, it is published. And when it is published, it blows people's mind. Okay? It blows people's mind. What he says in there, that you want to learn about tree. Traditionally, the only thing you could do is to see what Aristotle wrote about tree. And then you would read about tree, and that's all there is to it about tree. You want to learn about debate, or you want to learn about what they call the rhetoric or forensic or whatever it is that they are calling it. any subject that you could think about, Aristotle has something to say about it. So everything that comes out of the one brain, then it's very, very product of the time. So it's not. He sees that and he says, if you want to learn about tree, then don't read men's book about a tree. And when he says men, he means Aristotle. So what he says, you want to learn about tree, read from the God's book, and what he means is not Bible, but the tree itself. So go look at the tree. Don't read a book about a tree. Go look at a tree. Look at how tree works. Cut the tree open. Look inside. Do all this. All of a sudden, he is then asking people to go out and do things. So it's like, what? For 2,200 years, like nothing has happened? Oh, hell, we went through the dark ages where the shit we knew, we forgot.
Right.
Okay? Because we killed the people who knew what.
Right.
Earth is round was known for a very, very long time, 600 BC. But for whatever reason, we are back to the earth is flat and all these things. And we go through the dark ages and come out of the dark ages, and what do we call that? Renaissance. So I asked this question in the medical school when I was teaching, and I would tell them, it's like, well, why does the Renaissance happen? Well, because it's 1800. And it's like, honey, it's 1800, Renaissance tomorrow. It's not like some event has to occur. Francis Bacon, Novum Organum. All of a sudden, there is a guy, he's grounding glass and he's experimenting with lenses, and he discovers the first microscope. People are talking about Pascal. He's talking about the pressure and temperature, and everybody's out there talking. In cafe across the Europe, people are gathering and talking about this book, Organon Novum, and it's like, have you seen this? And what you and I call science, Francis Bacon lays out the principle. If you do an experiment and find a result in France, it ought to be good in England.
Right.
And in Egypt and elsewhere. The experiment ought to be reproducible, something that you and I recognize as a science. So we do an experiment, that experiment has to be reproducible, the results. If it's not, there is something wrong. And so rather than just reading a book and saying, this is all there is to it, go out there, start experimenting. So people are experimenting. Lavoisier is doing this, and Louis Pasteur, and all these people are doing things, and they're figuring out, and vaccine came out, and oh my goodness, all these people are out there doing things, and people are discovering things. And what later becomes known as a natural philosophy, what you and I now call science, it's once called the natural philosophy. The phila, love, Sophie, wisdom, philosophy, love of wisdom. So these are wise people. They start doing experiment, they start learning things, and all of a sudden the total knowledge is increasing. The total knowledge is increasing. We are learning a lot more than we ever had before. Why? We abandoned the Aristotelian logic. 3 years in college, at that time, when you went to the first year college curriculum, would be identical to the second year. The second year curriculum would be identical to the third year. It's the same curriculum. You would sit next to the same student.
Interesting.
And what subjects are you learning? Theology, law. What God said is the truth. What King said is the truth. Arts. And those are it. We are not learning physics. Hasn't been invented. We're not learning math. We're certainly not learning biology.
Sure.
None of the sciences, this word as a science has not yet invented. And all of a sudden, all these people are experimenting. Electricity, and people are Faraday. Michael Faraday is experimenting with the electricity. Galvani is experimenting with the current, and Faraday, and all these scientists that we now learn and read about. They didn't go to like college and say, well, I'm going to study electricity. There wasn't any.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back to the medical school.
Okay.
Back to the medical. So now you understand like how now there is old school is still present in I want to say it's not Pompeii, but it's in Italy somewhere, still present medical school. That's on my bucket list.
Go visit it.
To go visit it.
Okay.
And they are cutting bodies open for the first time.
Wow. Okay.
And they would discover things. It's like, so why are these tubes, vessels, going from lung to the heart? Did you know that? There is nothing going from the liver to the heart. So this hole is still present where the dissection would happen. And all of a sudden, we are first time learning it. And it's like, wow, so there is no pneuma. Like, yeah, no. Apparently, it goes to lung. Can you believe that? So like, are you saying that we are pumping blood from heart to the lung, is what you're saying? Well, yeah. No. That's not what the Artistotle your book is. It's supposed to come from the liver and go to... And then there is this guy named William Harvey, and he discovers the circulation. Remember the microscope I told you about?
Yeah.
Capillary is what connects the venous system to the arterial system.
Okay.
Capillaries are so microscopic that you and I cannot see them without the microscope. So all of a sudden shit's making sense. From the arterial side to the venous side, the blood doesn't go through the septum.
Right.
It goes to the lung, and this guy explains it to, it's like, wow, and all of a sudden we are learning a lot of things that we didn't learn before. And the explosion in knowledge. Hence the Renaissance. We come out of the darkness. So now then, we are coming to the end of the podcast today. So we are going to come again.
Okay.
And we are going to continue the discussion that how the knowledge increases. So one of the way the knowledge increases is by use of a science. Is it A or is it B is a question the scientist asks. Forms a hypothesis that says it's A. You then conduct experiment and you see the result and you draw a conclusion. Now you publish it and now we verify. And then somebody else comes and that's because you screwed up doing this. It's not actually A nor B, but it is C. So you don't say, like I say, and then it goes on.
Sure.
So what you and I recognize as a scientific method, Francis Bacon lays it out without calling it. Hypothesis, gathering data, examining the data, analyzing the data. We will continue this conversation.
Okay, and I'm going to squeeze out medical school stories from your personal past, too.
Oh, yes.
We are going to do that. You're not getting away from that one.
We are not.
We're going to hear about Pops. We're going to hear about Grandpops.
Okay.
It's coming back.
So my name was then Pops. Nickname was
Right.
Pops. And it's funny when you call me Pops, and it's like, dude, that was my nickname.
I came first.
Yeah. Oh, well, you did. And so I had a lot of fun being an older student.
Right.
And I had a lot of fun. And it was I think that it's not that I grew a new brain, because in college I flunked out once. I did. And they invited me not to come back. And they said, well, you failed the thermodynamics and we don't want you to come back.
We'll get into it next
All right,
week.
we'll get into it next time, and I'll tell you all about how I got I was flunked out of chemistry program way back when. Until I see you next time, boys and girls, continue the quest to learn, continue the quest to ask questions, and that is the only thing that grows the total body of knowledge, is that you ask questions. The true science is not to answer any question. True science is to then question all answers. The answers that are given to you, do not take it at face value. You've been listening to Eshrink right here. We invite you back next time.